Hello everyone, welcome back. Tom with Capo Fetish. Let's talk about some seamless British folk rock albums from the early 70s. I'm going to start off here with a really fine album from 1970. This is one of the greatest British folk rock acts of all time. They've had decades and decades of albums released. This is their fifth album, and this is their first album with a female lead singer. Sandy Denny had left the band at this point, and this is Richard Thompson's last album with Fairport Convention, and this is Full House from 1970. Fantastic record here. Starting off with Walk a While, nice jaunty little happy tune. You got Dirty Linen. You got the epic Sloth ending side one at 9 minutes and 19 seconds. And then you've got side two with Sir Patrick Spens, Flat Back Caper, Doctor of Physic, and The Flowers of the Forest. A seamless folk rock album here from 1970. After this, Richard Thompson would go solo and have a long career of incredible albums. So throwing this one in today, Fairport Convention, Full House, their first album. This is the one that followed the classic Legion Leaf with Sandy Denny. That was her last album. And again, the last one with Richard Thompson on guitar. And speaking of Richard Thompson, after Richard Thompson left the band after Full House, he came out with an incredible debut. Warner Brothers considers this one of the worst-selling albums on their label, and this is Henry the Human Fly from 1972. This is such a great album. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. I know Richard Thompson has a lot of great albums, but there's something about this album. It's just the perfect mixture of just like ballads and a little bit of rock and roll. That first track, Roll Over Vaughan Williams, has the most unique guitar sound on it. It sounds like, I don't know what it doesn't sound like anything I can think of off the top of my head. Just really amazing tone and style that he's playing in Roll Over Vaughan Williams. Nobody's Wedding is an amazing track. Some of my favorite tracks on here are Painted Ladies, just a really good acoustic folk rock track with drums and bass, just very like low key, but the melody is amazing. Shaky Nancy's great. The Poor Ditching Boy. The album ends with like just two of the greatest tracks. The Old Changing Way and the song Twisted are amazing tracks. Just an amazing album. I'd say almost near perfect. Richard Thompson's starring as Henry the Human Fly from 1972. Here's the back cover. If you've never heard this album, I highly recommend listening to it, pulling it up online. I think the first track will grab you and you want to listen to the whole thing in its entirety. That's how good this album is. But that first track will just suck you right in and you'll love it. Richard Thompson's Henry the Human Fly from 72, just fantastic album. Rod Stewart, back in the late 60s, early 70s, was just on fire. He did two albums with Jeff Beck, Truth and Beck Ola. Then he was in the Faces. He was in the Faces at the same time doing a solo career. This is his second solo album, and it is an absolute folk rock masterpiece. And that is Gasoline Alley. This is such a great album. I love Every Picture Tells a Story and Never a Dull Moment and the Rod Stewart album. But there's something really special about this album. Even Rod writes a couple of his own compositions on here. First of all, that title track is just phenomenal with that slide playing from Ron Wood. Basically, the Faces are all over this album, just backing Rod up. But I think this is his best set of songs on any album. I mean, it rivals Every Picture Tells a Story, and that's an amazing album. So you got the title track, which is incredible. Then he's got great taste. He's a great interpreter, Rod Stewart. He does so many great covers on here. He's got the Bobby and Shirley Womack, It's All Over Now, which the Stones covered. I think it was on 12 by 5. You've got a Dylan song on here, Only a Hobo, that was never released on any Dylan album back in 63, but it's on, I think, the Bootleg Series, Volume 1. It does a smoking version of the Small Faces, My Way of Giving, which ends side 1. Really great version of My Way of Giving. And I love the Small Faces version, too. So both versions are amazing. Then he tackles Elton John's Country Comforts off of Tumbleweed Connection, which is an incredible version. And then Cut Across Shorty is a nice workout, a little rock and roll workout. And then there's two tracks on here that Rod wrote that are just phenomenal folk rock tracks. Lady Day is gorgeous. And then Joe's Lament is fantastic. And then it ends with a little boogie. You're My Girl, I Don't Want to Discuss It. It's just, 9 perfect tracks, a perfect album. Rod Stewart's Gasoline Alley. There's Rod back in 70. Here's the inside cover. Rod drinking a little bit at the mic, ready for a vocal take. So throwing it in the mix. Rod Stewart's Gasoline Alley, a 5-star masterpiece today. Here's an album, a great late night listening album. Very chill, very meditative. It follows no verse, chorus, verse pattern per song. There's only 4 songs on here. And this is Roy Harper's Stormcock from 1971. Highly influential. Jimmy Page is a big fan of it. In fact, he's on one of the tracks here. The track, what is it called? The Same Old Rock. Jimmy Page appears on here. Very, very sparse instrumentation. It's one of those albums that takes you a few listens to really get the gist of it. These are songs that don't just, you listen to and they just don't register with you right away. But by the 5th listen, you'll notice all the nuances and all the little cool parts that come in. It's just really, there's really nothing like this album. It's very, very cool. 4 tracks, very long tracks. A fantastic listen. Roy Harper's Stormcock from 1971. You knew I was going to throw a Kinks album in here, right? Got to throw Muswell Hillbillies in here. This is one of many 5-star Kinks albums. A seamless, perfect album released in 71. Their first for RCA Records. And Ray Davies, in fact, considers this the best album he's ever written. So that just goes to show you the status of this album and where it stands in the Kinks catalog. I mean, where do you start? 20th Century Man, great folk rocker. But it's like one of those albums that's kind of like a hybrid. There's like music hall, there's country rock, there's folk rock, but they do it in their own way. It doesn't sound like the band. It doesn't sound like anybody else doing country rock. They have the Dixieland band performing behind some of the tracks, like Alcohol. All these tracks are just masterfully executed, written. Cute Schizophrenia, Paranoia Blues, Holiday, Skin and Bone, Alcohol, Complicated Life. That song just never ages. Here Come the People in Gray, Have a Cup of Tea, Holloway Jail, Oklahoma, USA, which Yola Tango covered on their Fake Book album. Pretty good version. Then it ends with Uncle Son and Muswell Hillbilly. This is just a masterpiece. It's ahead of its time. A lot of these lyrics and songs still apply to today. Very like the Kinks, they were out of time and ahead of their time. Right here, they're completely ahead of their time. Nobody was really writing lyrics like this in 1971 that were so prophetic, should we say? So the Kinks, Muswell Hillbillies from 1971. Another incredible album from 1971. This guy put out so many great albums in the early 70s, but this is my favorite. And this is John Martyn's Bless the Weather. What an amazing album. Just some of the most gorgeous melodies on here. The first track, Go Easy, starts it off with this kind of like really like ethereal kind of just incredible stuff. Bless the Weather. Some of my favorite tracks on here, though, are just these gorgeous ballads like Just Now. Back Down the River is probably my favorite track on here. So gorgeous. There's Head and Heart, which I think America covered on Homecoming. I think they did a cover of that. And then he ends up ending the album with a little version of Singin' in the Rain. So not a long album, but the tracks are just fantastic. Some people think that, what's the album that came out after this one? What's it called? Solid Air. A lot of people think that's his best. I love that album, but I think this is my personal favorite. It's an absolutely perfect record. Every track, 10 songs. John Martyn's Bless the Weather from 71. An album, kind of a hybrid album. Half of it is kind of jazz-oriented, and the other half is kind of folk rock-oriented. I'm talking about Traffic's John Barleycorn Must Die from 1970, which is probably my second favorite Traffic album after Mr. Fantasy. 6 tracks, perfect tracks. You've got Glad starting it off, the instrumental. You got Freedom Rider. It's just the way it segues into all these tracks is just perfect. Empty Pages is just still a staple on radio today, FM radio. But my favorite is that that title track, John Barleycorn. What a folk rock classic. The arrangement is amazing. The backup vocals, the harmonies. It's just an epic track that I never get tired of. And then you've got a couple of tracks on here that don't get a lot of attention that are awesome too. Stranger to Himself, and then it ends with Every Mother's Son. This is a near perfect album here. Seamless. John Barleycorn Must Die from Traffic from 1970. One of their greats. One of their all-time greats. I kind of like that shot there. Kind of cool. And then another one too. This guy released 3 perfect albums. I thought I'd throw this one in because this has a little more instrumentation. It's an absolute masterpiece, and it is Nick Drake's Brighter Later, which came out, I think it was recorded in 70, released in early 71, but there are 10 tracks on here, and there is just not a millisecond that is bad. There's a couple of instrumentals that bookend the album. Introduction and Sunday are gorgeous. Northern Sky has to be one of the most gorgeous tracks ever written. It is so beautiful. So beautiful. Hazy Jane 2, At the Chime of a City Clock, One of These Things First is amazing. Hazy Jane 1, Brighter Later, Fly, Poor Boy. Has this kind of jazz element to it. An absolute masterpiece. Brighter Later from Nick Drake from 1970. If you have any more to offer, any more seamless British folk rock albums from the early 70s, throw them in the comments section. As always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you dig the content across the channel, press subscribe. It's absolutely free. We will see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.